only scanning your negatives, you're doing 80% of the work for 20% of the experience. Film photography has absolutely exploded, and I love seeing it. I've been shooting film for over 30 years and printing in the darkroom for just as long. But here's what I'm noticing. Most people who get into film photography stop at developing their negatives. They scan them, they pull them into Lightroom or Photoshop, and then they just call it done. And look, I get it. Scanning is super convenient. Digital editing is familiar, but here's the problem. You're converting an analog medium back to digital. You're taking something tactile, something physical, something with its own unique character, and you're flattening it back into the same digital workflow that you were sort of trying to escape from in the first place. The darkroom is where film photography actually completes its journey, and if you've never made a print under an enlarger, you're missing the entire creative point of shooting film. Let me show you why. In a few minutes, I'm gonna explain one fundamental difference between darkroom prints and digital prints that really changes everything about how an image looks and feels. I'll also share why the darkroom is one of the few creative spaces left where you can actually get into a really solid flow state. And I'll tell you about a time that I spent over 10 hours in my darkroom and it felt like less than one. And at the end, I'll give you the exact starting point. If you want to set up your own darkroom without the kind of mystical gatekeeping, like the $10,000 equipment list some people tend to make it out to be or think it is. So I learned the printing process when I was about 12 years old, watching my dad develop BMX photos of me in our basement and seeing those images come up in the developer for the first time. That was it for me. I was hooked. Now things took off even more in my high school darkroom. I received a scholarship for my work. Then life happened, addiction. There were some really dark times, and I'm just forever grateful that I did find recovery just to all that madness. And this led me to rebuilding everything from the ground up. Photography and my darkroom were a huge part of my recovery. They just really helped me find myself again. Now, 18 years later, I run a YouTube channel teaching darkroom printing. I've created tools that help printers work more efficiently, and I mentor photographers all over the world who really want to master this craft. And I'm not here to romanticize any of this shit, or the darkroom for that matter. That's just my story. And I'm also not gonna tell you scanning is evil, because I scan film too. But if you've never made a print by hand, you haven't really experienced what film photography is all about, or at least a huge part of it. So here's what we're covering today. First, I'll explain exactly what you're missing when you skip the darkroom. And it's not just nostalgia or hipster aesthetics. There's a creative and technical difference that really matters. Second, I'll walk you through what the darkroom unlocks that digital editing can't replicate, both in the image and in your creative process. Third, I'll address the practical side. What does it actually take to set up a darkroom? And finally, I'll show you some simple next steps if this stuff really resonates with you. So let's jump in. So here's the thing most people don't understand about darkroom printing versus a digital workflow. A darkroom print is made with light. We're talking photons, we're talking analog energy. When you're making a print in the darkroom, you're projecting the light through the negative onto a photosensitive emulsion on the paper. That emulsion chemically reacts to the light. The silver in the emulsion is being transformed physically. You're also watching the image emerge in the developer because of a physical chemical process. Now, when you print digitally, even if you're printing on silver gelatin paper with a digital exposure unit, you're still working from a file that was manipulated on a screen. And I don't care how good your monitor's calibrated, there's something that happens when you interpretate and manipulate an image on a computer screen that doesn't translate the same on paper. Now, I have seen some really just gorgeous prints made this way, but digital prints, even beautiful ones, they tend to be over sharpened, just over something. And to me, they always look like they were made on a screen, and that's because they were. Now, darkroom prints have a different character. The tones have depth, the blacks have weight, the highlights have real texture, and most importantly, you're interpreting the image with your hands, not with some digital slider that's basically being replaced as we speak by AI. Now, when you're editing in Lightroom, you have infinite options. You can adjust every pixel, you can mask on a pixel level, you can clone, heal, liquefy, and now with AI, there's no constraint. That can be really cool, but in my world, that's not freedom, that's paralysis. Because because when you can do anything, you end up doing everything. Now in the darkroom, your tools are, I don't want to say anything limited. They're a bit more straightforward. You've got exposure, you've got contrast filters, you got dodging, burning, and you can get into flashing, bleaching, and masking. I mean, there's still plenty of manipulation techniques, but everything is much more straightforward. And to me, that's where the real creativity actually lies. You just can't fix everything, so you learn to make intentional decisions. You learn to see what matters and just let go of what doesn't. You learn to interpret what the negative has, not rebuild the whole thing because it sucks. And the end result are prints that feel like they actually have a soul. Prints that look like they were made by a human, not a computer. There's also something deeply satisfying just about the physical process itself. Standing at the enlarger, composing your image on the easel, making test strips, watching the paper go into the developer, and then finally watching it emerge and come up in the developer. It's very tactile, it's very sensory, it's very real. And I love the smell of fixer. I know that sounds weird, but I do. So a couple of years back, I went to my chiropractor for the first time, and they had me do x-rays. But to buy one of these new, really expensive x-ray machines, it's $50,000, probably way more. It's a lot of money. So my chiropractor, he's kind of a small operation, really down to earth, just the most amazing guy. So Dr. Ricky and Ashwaubenon, hands down the best chiropractor out there. But anyway, his wife took me to the back x-ray room, and immediately it hit me, the smell of fixer. And I said, oh, I love that smell. And she looked at me kind of strange. And then I kind of explained that I spend a lot of time in the darkroom, and that's, the fix is in there, and, kind of had to explain myself a little bit. Okay, anyway, a little story of me loving the smell of fix. And I also love opening a fresh box of paper and just smelling that new paper smell. It brings me back to when I was just a young punk teenager working in my high school darkroom. My hands would smell like that all day, and I honestly loved it. And here's the thing, in a world where everything is digital, where everything is reproducible, where AI can literally generate any image you can imagine, a handmade darkroom print is rare. It's not something that came out of a printer. It's something you made with your hands, with light, with chemistry, and that matters. Okay, let's talk about what happens mentally when you step into the darkroom. Here's my experience. I personally can't focus at all when I'm editing on a computer. I'm always distracted. Emails, text, YouTube. My brain is super fragmented. But in the darkroom, it's like shutting off the whole world. No one can access me. The only sound is the hum of my enlarger and ventilation fans and a really good playlist, present and focused. So as a quick example, yesterday I was actually in my darkroom. I ate breakfast, just some yogurt and honey, nothing crazy. I knew I was gonna print, so I got in there about 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. I forgot to eat the rest of the day. And I was in there till about 8:30 at night. And I do remember briefly stepping out at 6:30 and just my mind was blown that it was 6:30, and I was like, okay, I gotta start getting things wrapped up. But when I finally finished and stepped out, I was even more shocked. I felt like I'd been in there for 45 minutes. And I'm not saying you need to skip meals or spend all day printing like I do, but I am saying, when was the last time you experienced that level of focus doing anything on a computer? For me, never. It doesn't happen. The darkroom is the only place where I can get into that zone and stay that way for hours and not even realize it. And here's why I think that happens. The darkroom really forces you to slow down. You can't undo, you can't hit Command Z. If you mess up a print, you've wasted a sheet of paper. So you tend to think about it a bit more before you act. And you also can't get lost in infinite options. You have a negative, you have paper, and you have light, and you gotta figure it out. And because of that, your creative voice becomes much clearer. I see this all the time with digital editing. People spend hours tweaking sliders, trying every preset, second guessing every choice. And the final image, while it can be technically perfect, can also be creatively dead. In the darkroom, you don't have that problem. Your style emerges through repetition and some constraint, not through infinite digital manipulation. And the print that comes out of the process, they have intention, they have character, and they really feel like yours. It's something that you made. All right, let's get practical, because I know what you're thinking is, sounds great, but isn't the darkroom expensive? Isn't it complicated? Don't I need a huge space? The short answer is no. The darkroom is not some mystical, gate-kept thing that only master printers with $50,000 setups can access. Here's what you actually need: a light, tight space, or darkroom, a bathroom, a closet, a spare room, it doesn't matter. As long as you can block out light, you're good. You also need an enlarger. And you can find used ones now for a few $100. It doesn't need to be anything fancy. Then you need some photo paper. Start with resin coated. It's cheaper and just easier to work with. You're also gonna need some chemistry, developer, like Stop Bath Fix, maybe like $50 to get started. You need a few trays, some safe lights, and basic tools. You can find these galore on eBay, Craigslist, that's still a thing. Yeah, Craigslist, like Facebook Marketplace, all those places. You can find lots of this stuff. People are giving away trays still. Like, you can find it. You don't even need a dedicated room with running water or any of that. You can start small, and as you get addicted to it, build as you go. All right, I wanted to touch on this too. So here's where I'll say something that might surprise you. I do still scan my film. Scanning is super useful. It's a convenient way to preview your negatives, to share your negatives. It's great for quick proofing. A scan can also help you visualize how you might crop or approach adjusting different things. So I use scans to plan my prints, but the final images, nearly always made in the darkroom on paper with light, because that's just where the magic happens. And I fully believe that this matters now more than ever before. We live in a world where AI can generate any image you can imagine. Midjourney, DALL-E, Adobe, whatever. You type in a prompt and you get a picture. So what makes photography valuable anymore? And the answer is this: a physical print that you made by hand. It's not generated, it's not reproduced, it's not a digital file that can be copied infinitely. It's a unique physical object that required skill, time, and intention to create. And in the age of AI, that's what really matters. And I would even go as far as to say that's what has soul. So here's my challenge to you. If you've been shooting film and you've never made a darkroom print, you're missing 80% of what makes film photography special. You're stopping at the halfway point. You're developing your negatives, scanning them, and then calling it done. But the creative act, the real act, is the print. It's the interpretation. It's the physical, tactile process of bringing your vision to life on paper. And if you've never experienced that, you really don't know what you're missing. Now, I get it. Maybe you don't have a darkroom yet. Maybe you're not sure where to start. Maybe you're intimidated by the chemistry or the equipment or the process. So I created a free guide for you, the 5 mistakes to avoid when setting up your first darkroom. This is everything I wish I knew before I had started. It'll save you hundreds of dollars, weeks of frustration, and a lot of wasted paper. I'm gonna walk you through the biggest mistakes beginners make when choosing their darkroom gear, including the enlarger, how to design a space that works even if you're printing in a bathroom, closet, or tiny corner, the essential chemistry and paper to start with, and what to avoid, how to eliminate the most common workflow and printing mistakes that waste time and paper. And it's completely free. Just click the link in the description and I'll send it to you right away. And if you're really serious about mastering darkroom printing, if you want a step-by-step system that takes you from your first proof to a stunning final print, check out my full course, Unlock the Darkroom, from film to final print. It's everything I've learned over 30 years distilled into a clear, repeatable process.
The workflow that you kind of laid out, I mean, it's transformational. I know it's like a really dramatic word, but that's actually what it is. It's like it transformed what I was doing before to what I'm doing now.
No guesswork, no trial and error, just results. The link's in the description. Now look, I'm not here to tell you that scanning is bad or that digital editing is wrong, but I am here to tell you that if you've never made a print in the darkroom, you're missing the entire creative heart of film photography. The darkroom is where the image becomes real. Think of it this way. The camera starts the story. The darkroom finishes it. It's where your vision finally takes shape in your hands. So grab the guide, set up your darkroom, make your first print. And I promise you, once you watch that image come up in the developer, you'll understand exactly what I've been talking about. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.